It is the short-term financial fix that all too often leads to long-term misery. The payday loan can be a most difficult debt.
Added up that I took out £8,000 and with interest I paid back £17,000. I was getting to a point where I was getting about 15 text messages a day from different companies offering me up to £1,000 and constant phone calls, and I had to change my number. So now that they can't contact me, but I still get emails offering me all sorts of money.
The Citizens Advice Bureau says it's seen a...
Now the time is almost 20 to 7. Payday lenders aren't doing everything they could to make sure that they lend responsibly, and that's according to Citizens Advice.
They say almost 9 out of 10 borrowers didn't have to show how they plan to repay their loans. Amy Jarman is one of the many people who got into thousands of pounds worth of debt through payday lenders.
Got my first payday loan when I was 19. I needed a new car tyre. The next month they added the interest to take off, so I was low next month. So I got another payday loan out to cover that, and it spiralled into £17,000 I paid back. At one point it was sort of 5 payday loan companies, and realistically I couldn't pay it back. I was adamant I wasn't going to do it again, so I thought, you know, I've learnt my lesson, but I didn't. And I was getting at one point up to 15 text messages a day from different companies offering me money. And there was me trying to not take payday loans, but they were just throwing it out there for me to catch the bait.
Well, joining us now is Mike Dixon from Citizens Advice, and in Bristol...
Well, joining us now is Amy Jarman, who took out a £100 loan to pay for a new tyre for her car, along with her mum Liz and Stella Creasy, a Labour MP for a constituency in East London.
Walthamstow.
Walthamstow, thank you very much indeed. It's escaped my brain for just a second. And down in Bristol we have Russell Hamblin-Boone, who represents the Consumer Finance Association, which represents major payday lenders. Very warm welcome to you all. Amy, if I kick off with you, you borrowed £100. What did that loan become in the end?
Over the past 4 years, I paid back just under £17,000.
How many?
Interest. £17,000.
78?
17.
£17,000?
Yeah.
How on earth did that happen?
Every month I was riding over. It was adding on more interest, so I couldn't not borrow the next month.
Because you needed the money?
Yeah.
And Mum had to step in, did you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I didn't realise anything was going on until she put a blog on Facebook, and I read it and realised what the problem was and went straight over to her flat.
And you helped her out financially?
Yeah. Luckily, I was made redundant, so I'd got some money to bail her out. Otherwise, there would have been more problems.
I mean, still, it beggars belief that people can get into this kind of trouble. And, you know, obviously people have to take responsibility for their own actions. We have to say that. But this is staggering, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the thing that makes me really angry is I hear from thousands of people now across the country in very similar positions to Amy. We know what works in other countries to tackle the kinds of debts that these companies can cause. And yet for 3 years now, the government has resisted doing anything about them. And now we're hearing more and more stories like this. It's capping the total cost of credit. It's making sure they do proper credit checks. And it's tackling the way in which they're using continuous payment authorities. These are not rocket science solutions. They're very simple.
Well, let's come to that in just a tick. But first of all, go to Russell Hamblin-Boone, who's down in Bristol. I mean, just respond, if you would, please, Russell, to these allegations that people or companies you represent are lending money to kids under 18, people who have got mental health issues, people who are drunk. I mean, this is ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, that's absolutely not the case with the lenders that I represent, the much larger businesses. They do credit checks. They do make sure that people are able to pay back their loans. More than 8 out of 10 people that my members lend to pay back their loans in full and on time. On top of that, we have high standards to make sure, for example, that you can't roll over your loan, so you can't get into this kind of ballooning debt.
I have to tell you, Stella Creasy, who's studied this issue, the MP sitting alongside me, is shaking her head.
The Office of Fair Trading did a study and found that these practices were widespread in the industry. Most companies are doing this, including the companies that you represent, Russell. This is a bit like asking turkeys to make justifications for Christmas. The more and more they tell us that it's not them, it's somebody else, and the more and more stories we're hearing from people like Amy tell me that we as politicians need to step in. That's why I'm so frustrated that the government won't do anything, because Russell's clearly not going to.
Yeah, well,
I'm afraid it's not the case that that includes my members. I've seen the letters from the Office of Fair Trading to those lenders. They're addressing the issues that have been raised. There are irresponsible lenders out there, and we work with Citizens Advice. We work with people who get into debt to help them, which is not what a lot of less reputable lenders are doing.
I have to tell you, Russell, that Citizens Advice analysed more than 700 cases over a 6-month period. They looked at 2,000 examples altogether. It beggars belief that some of them aren't your members.
Well, I've spoken to customers, and I've spoken to bureau advisors up and down the country, and they're actually saying, with my lenders, they are actually starting to see signs of improvement, and they've been very complimentary about that.
Would you not concede that, sir?
Russell, will you admit whether any of the lenders that you represent have been sent letters? Because the top 50 in the country have, covering 90% of the consumer credit market. So if they haven't been, then you're representing a very small number of people, and really we need to talk to the big fish, don't we?
Yes, they have. All of my members have been sent letters.
By the Office of Fair Trading.
Yes, they will do, and they're addressing the concerns.
Well, the Office of Fair Trading says that they're all at it, and that's why they're sending them letters. So the fact that Russell admits that some of the companies he represents have been sent letters just tells us why we can't trust a word these companies say. 90% of the people in that study, they hadn't checked whether they could pay the loan in the first place. I think many of your viewers will be astounded that we have an industry like that in the UK and that nobody's doing anything about it. That's why the government has got to step in.
Yeah, my lenders have received letters. Unfortunately, they are doing credit checks and they are doing affordability checks, and they're not rolling over loans. They are acting responsibly, and we're setting the standards through a code of practice which is now independently monitored to make sure that we're setting the bar high. And if that means that drives out those less reputable lenders, those lenders who aren't meeting those requirements, then I support that, and we'll continue to work with Citizens Advice, and I'll continue to talk to customers, and I'll continue to get positive feedback from the Bureau.
Russell, and now we hear from young people like Amy who are being preyed on by the companies that you represent. 4 years you've been saying you'll self-regulate yourself, and nothing is changing. It's getting worse, not better, isn't it?
We need to continue to improve, and we are doing that. That's why we're working with Citizens Advice. That's why we're working with the Office of Fair Trading. We're working with the regulator, and on top of that, we have our own standards in place. And we'll continue to do that because we realise there are problems.
All right, Russell, thank you very much, and to Stella and to both of you there for sharing your experiences. Thank you very much. 7:49.